Hello and welcome to this lesson on rounding whole numbers. So we're just going to be looking at whole numbers here. We're not going to delve into decimals. So here we go. So we're going to round. When we're talking about rounding, it's moving a number to the nearest 10, 100, 1,000, or to the nearest 1 if we're looking at decimals. So here we're going to look at moving our numbers to the nearest 10. So this helps us with estimation amongst other things. So to the nearest 10 we've got over here a 7. So what is the nearest 10 that goes with 7? And if you look at the top here, I'm going to look at the 0. How many zeros are there in 10? And that's how many zeros we'll need in the final number we have when we're rounding. So I'm going to use a little bit of place value here. So this is going to be our ones column, this is going to be our tens column, and this is our hundreds column. And this use of place value will help us. So I know if I have the number 7, which I'm going to put in there, and just draw a line across there. So I have the number 7, but I know in my answer, because I'm rounding to the nearest 10, that I need a 0. So there needs to be a 0. So that means I now need to move into my tens column. So is 7 nearer to 10 or nearer to 0? Well, easily we can see that it's nearer to 10 because it's only 3 away from that. So I know it's nearer to 10, so I've got 1 in the tens column at 0. So 7 rounded to the nearest 10 is 10. So let's just rub those out and have a go at 2. So if I put 2 in, and I know I have to have a 0 because it's to the nearest 10, then 2 is nearer to 0 than 10, so I'm going to put a 0 in there. So 0 is the nearest 10, even though it isn't 10. Okay. I'm going to leave my 0 in there because I know that I need it now. Let's have a look at 5. Now 5 is an interesting one because it's the same distance from 10 as it is from 0. So we have a little rule of rounding that we use here, in that 5 always goes up and 4 always comes down. So if I get to 5, I round up. So I go upwards. So I go upwards to 10. So it's nearer to 10, even though it isn't actually nearer. That's our rule, so that we can go in one direction or the other. So 5 goes up, 4 comes down. So that's fine. Hopefully we can remember that. We'll use that lots coming up. Let's have a look at 16. So 16, I'll pop that in there. Okay, I've already got a 10 here, but it's the 6 I'm going to look at. Is that going to go up or down? So that has to be a 0. So does the 6 go up to, does 16 go up to 20, or does it go down to 10? Well, 6 is closer to 20, 16 is closer to 20, so that becomes a 2. So as it's going up, my 1 becomes a 2, so there I have 20. And next one is 54. So 54 here, so I put 54 in, that's got to be a 0. 54, well, 4 is going to go down, so 4 is the one I'm looking at. 4 is going to go down, so that means the 5 stays the same because it's nearer to 50 than 60. So the 5 doesn't change. So if it goes down, it doesn't change. If it goes up, it goes up 1. So 50. And last one, 216. So we're thinking, hang on, but that's more, but it doesn't matter because we're rounding to the nearest 10. So I'm not actually interested in the 2 at all. So look at the 16. Is 16, because I'm looking at tens, is 16 closer to 20 or to 10? Well, it's closer to 20. So we know that, and then so that becomes a 2, and then that stays as a 2. So 220, it's gone up. So the tens column, this one here, has gone up. So let's have a look at rounding to the nearest 100. So if I do the same sort of thing here, put a line across, and let's put 65 in. So if 5 in the ones, and 6 in the tens. But I'm looking at my hundreds, there are 2 zeros, so I want to finish off with 2 zeros. So 65, does it go up or does it come down? Well, 65 is closer to 100 than it is to 0, so I'll have 100. So if you imagine there was a 0 there, that 0 has gone up 1. So rub that out. And let's have a look at 50. Now, do we remember our rule? Our rule was that a 5 goes up. So 50, we've got to have another 0 there. So 50, the 5 must go up. So if I'm looking at 0, 5, 0, which is 50, the 5 has to go up, so it goes up to 100. So 50 is closer to 100 than it is to 0, because we're rounding to the nearest 100. So if we now have a look at 265, now I need 2 zeros, so does the 2 go up or stay the same? Well, 65, I look to the right of it. Important to look to the right of the number that you're rounding. So 265, 65 is closer to the 100, so we go up to the next 100, which is 300. And 750, 50 goes up, doesn't it? So we're looking to the right of the 100 column, so 50 goes up, so I'll end up with 800. Right, so if I'm rounding to the nearest 1,000, let's have a little think. So we're going to do 2,642, let's try that one. 2,642. How many zeros are there in 1,000? Well, there's 3. So I need to end up with 3 zeros. So does that 2 go up or stay the same? Well, I look to the right of it, 642. Well, that's closer to 1,000, which is what I'm rounding to. It's closer to 1,000 than it is to 0, so it must go up. So that becomes 3,000. Let's try another one. Let's do 10,400 and let's go back. 10,224. Let's try that. So 10,224. And so it looks more complicated, but it isn't. I need those 3 zeros in, because we're doing rounding to 1,000, the nearest 1,000. And now, does this 0 here stay the same, or does it move up to be a 1? Well, 224 is closer to 0 than it is to 1,000, so that's going to stay the same. So I'm rounding to it to 10,000. So, can you round these numbers to the nearest 10? If you'd like to have a go, pause me, and then we can go through it. So you either paused me or you didn't. So here we go. To the nearest 10, 5 goes up to the nearest 10, and that is going to be 10. 27 is rounded up to 30. 75, that 5 there is going to go up, so that's going to become 80. 246, the 6 goes up, 250. Remember, because I'm rounding to the nearest 10, it's got to be 1 0 at the end of this. 1,762 is going to be 1,700. This is the one I'm looking at. It's close to 0, so it's going to be 0. Okay, so 1,760 to the nearest 100. Pause me again if you want to. So 505 will become 500. I've got to have 2 zeros, and I look at whether that's close to 0 or 100, and 5 certainly is close to 0. 621, look at that one, 600. 954, that's going to go up. So it goes up 954. I have to go up to 1,000 because that 9 there becomes 10. And there's your 10. 2,621. Well, that is going to become 2,600. The 21 goes down. And 43,651 sounds complicated, but I'm only looking at those two. And 51 will go up because it's more than 50. So 43,700. Okay, let's try some to the nearest 1,000. Pause me if you want. Okay, here we go. So 7,621. 621 I'm looking at because it's 3 zeros, and that's going to be going up to 8,000. Then 1,002 is going to be going down to 1,000. 2,500, it's 500, it's halfway, it's going to go up, so that's going to go up to 3,000. 32,421. 421 is closer to 0 than it is to 1,000, so we stay at 32,000. And 721,908. 908 is closer to 1,000, so that one needs to go up. 722,000. So even big numbers, it's quite simple. You just look at the ones that are important. Okay, all that remains to say is thanks for watching, and come back soon.